pleasant good morning to the Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, his ministers, ministers of state and members, to the Leader of the Opposition, his members, and Madam Speaker. Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, who through Jesus Christ has revealed your glory to all nations, please protect and preserve Belize, our beloved country. God of might, wisdom, and justice, please assist our Belizean government and people with your Holy Spirit of counsel and fortitude. Let the light of your divine wisdom direct their plans and endeavors so that with your help we may attain our just objectives. With your guidance, may all our endeavors tend to peace, social justice, liberty, national happiness, the increase of industry, sobriety, and useful knowledge. We pray, O God of mercy, for all of us, that we may be blessed in the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of your most holy law, that we may be preserved in union and in that peace which the world itself cannot give. And after enjoying the blessings of this life, please admit us, dear Lord, to that eternal reward that you have prepared for those who love you. Amen.
Oath of allegiance of a new member.
Acting Clerk, can you kindly administer the oath of allegiance to the new member of Parliament?
I, Osmond Martinez, do swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Belize, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as a member of the House of Representatives, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God.
Welcome to the House of Representatives, member for Toledo East.
Announcement by the Speaker.
Honorable members, good morning and welcome to the first sitting of the House in our temporary location. It would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the efforts of all those involved in making sure that we could hold our first meeting after the recess period concluded yesterday. I would like to thank the Board of Directors and the management of the George Price Center for Peace and Development, who were very accommodating and worked with us as we transformed what really was their auditorium to the chambers of the National Assembly of Belize. I also, of course, need to acknowledge the cooperation, the work, the guidance of the engineers and architects at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Development and Housing, and by extension, the Minister, the Honorable Julius Espat, for his cooperation as well as for his encouragement for us to ensure that we do it so that it befits the stature of the legislature. I would also like to thank the Prime Minister of Belize, Minister of Finance, because as you know, while we have a grant from the Republic of China, Taiwan, to do renovations over at the National Assembly, we also needed to get the monies approved to do the works to transform the GPC as well. And I also would like, of course, to acknowledge the Prime Minister's support in the recommendations that we made to him to ensure that we can do this right, and for which he accepted. So thank you, Prime Minister. And last but certainly not least, I would like to thank the staff of the press office. I'd like to thank the IT and audio personnel from Mr. Alcocer, and of course, the acting clerk, Clarita Petch, and the team at the National Assembly of Belize. Please understand, they went above and beyond. They worked very long hours in the evening, including right up until yesterday, to ensure that we could present today a location and an office space as well as a National Assembly befitting the stature of any legislature, and that you members would be pleased. They also ensured, as we went through the various walkthroughs with the police as well and with the media, that we could at minimum accommodate an area, if you will, for the fourth state, the media, but also very limited gallery space over to the left for the guests when needed. It is unfortunate, but could not be avoided, that we cannot have public gallery. But again, with the live streaming, it doesn't mean that the public will not be served. With that said, all I will ask members, this is our first, if you will, test run. We are looking forward to your feedback on the experience of this new space, as it will be the space for at least a year. We'll be looking forward to the feedback, of course, from the media and the press office and the police. And we hope to address any glitches that may pop up in time for the next meeting. Thank you.
Bill brought from the Senate.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Rural Transformation, Community Development, Labor and Local Government.
Madam Speaker, I rise to move that the House do now consider the Senate amendments.
Honorable members, those amendments, the question is that the House do now consider the Senate amendments. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Amendments agreed by the Senate Tuesday, 23rd July 2024. Class 2, Class 9, Class 10, Class 18, Class 19, and Class 23. Paper circulated to all members.
Honorable members, the question is that the amendments as proposed by the Senate to the Trade Licensing Bill 2022 on 23rd July 2024 be accepted. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Papers.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Economic Development, Investment.
Madam Speaker, if you would allow me first, your indulgence, to be able to welcome our colleague, the Honorable Member from Toledo East, by the name of Dr. Osmond Martinez, a friend. And I am confident that the good people of Toledo East are going to be well represented. And I think it's important for me to point out that we always talk about the American dream. Well, in Belize, we also have the Belizean dream, that if you work hard and be ambitious and try to get things done for yourself, that you also can do well. We know that Dr. Martinez, or the honorable member from Toledo East, comes from very, very humble beginnings, living in a banana farm. And his parents were originally from another country. And here we have this gentleman who, as a child, did not have electricity, and they lived in very, very humble, they had a very humble beginnings. But because of his determination and working in school, and because there were so good teachers that mentored him, he managed to get to the point where he earned a doctorate, and that today the people of Toledo East decided to elect him to represent him. So I want to congratulate Osmond, my brother. Congratulations to you. Your mom must be very proud, so is your dad, who's not here, but your entire family and friends. So on behalf of all of us here on this side, and I'm sure on the other side, congratulations and welcome to this National Assembly. Also, Madam Speaker, I think that the father of the nation must be smiling right now from above, because here we're using his house, a building that was built in his honor, a building that was built to be able to keep his legacy alive, and that because of wanting to, well, uplift the same building that he was, the National Assembly that he built, I think it was about 50 years or more ago, and it's in badly need of repair, that now we're here using the building that was named and in his honor for 1 year to have house meetings. So I think it's quite fitting that we're here, especially on during the September celebration, to have the first meeting. I congratulate you and the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing, the entire team, and of course, the minister, who is at the head of the team, and the entire staff to be able to in this area, manage to move everybody over here. And I was grappling in my mind, I said, how was this going to be possible? And I'm quite surprised, pleasantly surprised of the great work that you all have done. And again, it speaks to Belizean ingenuity, that we can make do with whatever you put in front of us. We can find a way to make it and work. So again, my big congratulations, big up to you, Madam Speaker, and to the entire staff for that. Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on the table sessional papers number HR 262-113, the Central Bank of Belize for the second annual report and statement of accounts for the year ending 31st December 2023. Sessional paper HR 262A-113, Central Bank of Belize revised estimates of income and expenditure for year 2024. And HR 263-113, the 22nd annual report for the Contractor General for the period April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. And HR 264-113, the 21st annual report of the Ombudsman of Belize for the period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
Honorable members, the sessional papers numbers HR 262/1/13, HR 262A/1/13, and HR 263-1/1/13 are ordered to lie on the table, and sessional paper number HR 264/1/13 is referred to the Ombudsman Reports Committee for examination, consideration, and report. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Development, and Housing.
Morning, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on this table sessional paper number HR 264A/1/13. Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing, Civil Works Contract Agreement, Thomas Vincent Ramos Highway Upgrading Project, Mile 6, Hummingbird Highway to the Hopkins Junction. Just a couple notes, Madam Speaker. This project was budgeted for this year. The project was put out to open tender. The contractor that won the bid was Tycrob and Sons Limited. The contract amount is for $9,595,167.75. The distance is 16.2 kilometers long. It starts from the junction at Dangriga, and it will be completed at the junction in Hopkins. It is the initial stages of the rehabilitation of what we know as the Southern Highway, but the official name is Thomas Vincent Ramos Highway. So this is the first section that we are doing because the roads have experienced damage because now the road is being used by heavier trucks, meaning the trucks that are coming in from the Orange Walk district from BSI, and the trucks that are coming in from the Cayo districts from Santander, and other trucks that are using now the port in the south. So this is the first phase of the project. We are doing, as I said, from Dangriga to Hopkins, and we will be making additional proposals to the government of Belize to continue from Hopkins to Placencia, then from Placencia to Independence, and then from Independence all the way to Punta Gorda. We are doing it by phases, so we're trying to be as responsible as we possibly can. Start date is July 2024. Completion date is March 2025. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, that paper is ordered to lie on the table. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports and Transport.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on the table sessional paper number HR 265/1/13, Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment number 2, Regulations 2024. Madam Speaker, short synopsis, this is the amendment to the EV buses in Belize City in terms of rate for a one-year pilot project.
Honourable members, that paper is ordered to lie on the table. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Public Utilities, Energy, Logistics and E-Governance.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on the table sessional paper number HR 266/1/13, the Electricity Tariffs, Fees and Charges Amendment number 2, Bylaws 2024. Madam Speaker, and by way of explanation, this really just deals with the date for the commencement of certain sections of the regulation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, that paper is ordered to lie on the table.
Introduction of bills.
I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, this is the Customs and Excise Duties Amendment number 2 bill for 2024. Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duties Act, Chapter 48 of the Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty for diesel oils, to provide for a new subheading for diesel oils, to increase the list of items subject to excise duty, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental to. Madam Speaker, as I just briefly mentioned earlier, that this bill seeks to vary the rate of import duty for Belize, for diesel oils by amending Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 of the Customs and Excise Duties Act to be able to increase the list of diesel oils subject to excise duty while removing important duty on certain diesel oils. Excise tax revenues generated from petroleum-based diesel oil not containing biodiesel, what we normally refer to as diesel, provides critical support to finance central government's expenditures on education, health, citizen security, infrastructure, paying teachers, paying the BDF, and so forth, among other things. The blended petroleum-based diesel oil containing biodiesel, what I refer to as blended biodiesel, is an alternative fuel substitute to petroleum-based diesel oil. Both are imported from abroad since none are produced in Belize. However, the applicable tax regime differs significantly between the two of them. Blended biodiesel is taxed significantly less than diesel and therefore enjoys a substantial competitive advantage to the extent that imports of blended biodiesel were to increase in substitute to diesel, the government stands to suffer a major loss of tax revenues. And we're already seeing an increase in the importation of these blended biodiesel. This bill then is being introduced here today to guard against this serious material loss of tax revenue, which may result if the equivalent duties and taxes are not imposed on both commodities. It is also essential to maintain parity within the fuel industry to safeguard against unfair competition and trade practices, which can result from differences in duties applicable to these fuel products. The amendment to Schedule 1, the Customs Tariff and Trade Classification of the Customs and Excise Duties Act, will thus provide for a zero import duty rate to be applied on both diesel and blended biodiesel. At the same time, the amendment to Schedule 2, the excise duties of the Customs and Excise Duties Act, will provide for the same excise duty rate to apply both to the diesel and the blended biodiesel. This adjustment will ensure that there is no tax advantage between these fuels, and it will serve to minimize any tax losses that may arise from any shifting between these fuel substitutes. The Directorate of Foreign Trade has advised that the government of Belize can vary the rate of import duty applied from $1.52 per imperial gallon to 0%. And if this bill is enacted, it will notify the CARICOM Secretariat of Belize's new applied import duty rate as it is permissible under the common external tariff structure. In the circumstances, Madam Speaker, I look forward to support from this honorable host. Thank you.
Honorable members, that bill is referred to the Finance and Economic Development Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duties Act, Chapter 44 or 48, that is, of the laws of Belize Revised Edition 2020 to vary the rate of duty for diesel oils, to provide for a new subheading for diesel oils, to increase the list of items subject to excise duties, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is the Movable Property Security Rights Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to facilitate the use of movable property as collateral for credit facilities, to establish the Office of the Registrar of Security Rights, and to provide for the registration of security rights in movable property and for related purposes, and to provide for matters connected here with or incidental. Madam Speaker, it's quite an exciting bill, Madam Speaker. So what I'm really presenting today is a transformative bill that will open new doors for Belizean businesses, especially small businesses, providing them with the financial tools they need to be able to grow, innovate, and thrive. This bill is part of a package of reforms and initiatives this government has put together to foster the expansion of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, or MSMEs, ecosystem in Belize. The Movable Property Security Rights Act of 2024 will directly address one of the most significant barriers to growth for small businesses, their ability to access finance. Think about it. A small businesswoman in Belize, whether in manufacturing, a tour operator, or a farmer, who has the talent and the drive to expand their business but lacks access to finance because she cannot use her equipment or inventory as collateral. With this bill, that businesswoman will no longer face such hurdles. She will have the opportunity to grow her business, invest in new technologies, hire more people, and contribute to our national prosperity. By unlocking access to finance for thousands of small businesses, this bill will drive job creation, stimulate investment in local industries, and enhance Belize's competitiveness on the global stage. These businesses are the backbone of our economy, and with the right financial support, they have the potential to generate significant economic growth, create more jobs, and uplift entire communities. Once enacted, this bill will reduce risk for lenders, make it easier for MSMEs to access loans at lower interest rates, and create a simple, affordable process for using movable assets like equipment, inventory, or even accounts receivable as collateral. Balansika, you hear a lot of horror stories where small businesses, because they can't access the regular financial systems, like to a large extent the banks, and in some instances credit unions, then the only other avenue they have is those pawn shops or loan sharks, whereby because they are desperate in need of $10,000, they go and they sign their life and their family to be able to try to get this $10,000 to keep their business going. This bill, Madam Speaker, then will, or once it becomes enacted into law, then it will allow businesses having available to the regular financial system to be able to access funding for their businesses. So it's something very, very exciting that I believe we all need to support. So, Madam Speaker, it will, as I said, it will ensure that businesses can continue to borrow, even in tough times when they're coming close to insolvency. That's when it's even the most difficult time for them to be able to borrow. With this bill, they'll be able to take their equipment or their accounts receivable and borrow using those as collateral, and it can keep them from going bankrupt and keep them going until hopefully they could turn things around for themselves. A secure transactions law can also stimulate entrepreneurship and innovation among small businesses in Belize. By providing a secure legal framework for lenders and borrowers to engage in secure transactions, the law encourages risk-taking and entrepreneurship in the business community. Small businesses are more likely to explore new businesses or new business ideas, invest in research and development, and adopt innovative technologies when they have access to affordable financing secured by their movable assets. The culture of entrepreneurship and innovation can drive economic diversification, foster competitiveness, and position Belize as a hub for small business growth and development. Madam Speaker, according to the Statistical Institute of Belize, MSMEs make up over 90% of businesses in Belize and accounts for roughly 50% of employment. Yet, a vast majority of them struggle to access affordable credit. This bill has the potential to unlock millions of dollars in new, more affordable lending, driving growth in key sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and other services. This bill is not just about economic growth. It is about empowering the small business owners, farmers, and entrepreneurs who have long been sidelined by a financial system that doesn't recognize their assets. With this legislation, we are saying to them, you matter, and your contribution to our economy matters. You now have the same opportunities to succeed as anyone else. This bill represents a rare and precious opportunity to reshape our financial landscape and give our small businesses the tools they need to succeed. I urge this Honorable House for us to act swiftly, for every day we delay is another day that our small businesses are held back from reaching their full potential. Let us pass this bill and unlock a brighter, more prosperous future for all Belizeans. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, that bill is referred to the Finance and Economic Development Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for an act to facilitate the use of movable property as collateral for credit facilities, to establish the Office of the Registrar of Security Rights, and to provide for the registration of security rights in movable property and for related purposes, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, Education, Culture, Science, and Technology.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill 2024. I rise to introduce a bill for an act to amend the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act number 11 of 2024 to repeal and replace provisions relating to automatic expungement, to allow for the automatic expungement of any conviction for a first offense for possession of cannabis or cannabis resin, and a first offense for any COVID-19 related offense, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Madam Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet. With your permission, Madam Speaker, I'll offer a few words on behalf of the Attorney General's Ministry in respect of the introduction of this bill. The bill is best understood, Madam Speaker, with reference to another bill which I will also be introducing, the Misuse of Drugs Amendment Bill 2024, which is an act to repeal existing provisions relating to the expungement of certain convictions under the Misuse of Drugs Act. So I'll therefore seek your indulgence and leave in making reference to that bill as I talk about the Criminal Records Amendment Bill. Madam Speaker, prior to April 2024, there was no legislation in Belize relating to the expungement of convictions, except for Section 28B of the Misuse of Drugs Act, which provides solely for the expungement of a conviction for possession of cannabis under that act. In April of this year, as part of its criminal justice reform, and in fulfillment of what the Prime Minister stated at the recently concluded Conference on Criminal Justice Reform hosted in Belize, for the need for there to be a firm but fair criminal justice system. This government enacted the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. As is well known, Madam Speaker, having a criminal record can have very serious consequences for an individual, since it is often taken into consideration when applying for a job, obtaining a license, applying for a visa, or applying for membership to bodies, institutions which serve the public. The stigma of a criminal record is particularly unfair and unjust when the crime would have been committed when the person was a youth. This act establishes a mechanism through which an individual who has been rehabilitated and who has been successful in turning his or her life around, becoming a law-abiding citizen, to fully move on from their past mistakes, provides persons with a fresh start, freedom to pursue career opportunities, to provide for themselves and their families, and access services that a criminal record may have prevented them from enjoying. The Criminal Records Act came into force on Emancipation Day. That was not by accident. That was a deliberate statement. And a board has subsequently been appointed to consider applications for expungement of criminal records. There is, however, Madam Speaker, an incongruity in the provisions relating to automatic expungement of records under the Criminal Records Act and the misuse of drugs that needs to be corrected, and that's why we're here today with this amendment. The legislative measures being introduced by way of the Criminal Records Amendment Bill and the Misuse of Drugs Amendment Bill aim to achieve this. Section 28 of the Misuse of Drugs Act, which was enacted in 2017, makes provisions for persons convicted of possession of cannabis and sentenced to a fine not exceeding $1,000 to then receive an automatic expungement. The expungement process works in such a way that a convicted person who has fully complied with all conditions of any sentence imposed on that person and who has not been convicted of any other offenses over a prescribed period of time is eligible to apply for the expungement of the convictions of certain classes of offenses. Upon an application to the board is satisfied that all conditions for expungement exist. It would make a directive for that criminal record to be removed. Under Section 28B of the Misuse of Drugs Act, however, Madam Speaker, an offender convicted of possession of cannabis and has paid his fine of $1,000 or less can have his criminal record expunged without the need for the waiting period. On its face, there's nothing which seems to be wrong with this. It's like an accelerated expungement process. So why have an offender convicted of possession of cannabis wait 3 to 5 years before his record can be expunged? But that is not the purpose of the legislative measures being introduced, Madam Speaker. Indeed, in Section 30 of the Criminal Records Act, which this government passed, this accelerated expungement process or automatic expungement is still recognized in law. It is the aim again to have a firm but fair criminal justice system to facilitate an offender to get on with his life after paying his debt to society. So then what is the purpose of the amendment being introduced? In their current forms, the automatic expungement process under the Misuse of Drugs Act and Section 30 of the Criminal Records lend themselves to abuse by repeat offenders. So that is the issue, Madam Speaker. So a person can be convicted of possession of cannabis in January, pay his fine and have his record be expunged, and a month later reoffend, be fined, and apply to have his criminal record be automatically removed, as there is no limit for an application for automatic expungement. This, of course, is counterintuitive to the purpose of the legislation, and it certainly is not the intention of legislatures to have repeat offenders be beneficiaries of this automatic right to have his criminal record expunged. Therefore, Madam Speaker, consequential amendments are necessary to both the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act and the Misuse of Drugs Act. By the Criminal Records Bill 2024, the Criminal Records Act will be amended to limit the persons who qualify for automatic expungement. This will be persons who are convicted for the first time, so first-time offenders, to possession of cannabis or cannabis resin and have been sentenced to a fine not exceeding $1,000. And B, any COVID-19 related offense. So now, Madam Speaker, you will note that the automatic or accelerated expungement process did not previously exist in our laws for COVID-19 related offenses. There are profound policy reasons for it now to be inserted in our laws. As is well known, as a result of the emergence of COVID-19 in 2020, laws were enacted to mitigate community spread of the virus. These laws were enacted under the Belize Constitution, the Quarantine Act, and the Public Health Act, making it an offense to be on the street or in a public area during curfew hours, failure to wear a face mask or face covering, failure to maintain social distancing, restricting public gatherings, to engage in social activities, and for failure to comply with the health and safety protocols. In consequence, certain conducts which were otherwise lawful were then criminalized. Under these laws, many persons were charged and convicted of the various COVID-19 offenses and sentenced to pay fines. These offenses of being on the street or in a public area during curfew hours have become spent and are no longer applicable laws of Belize. Yet thousands of people still have criminal records for these offenses, which are no longer part of our laws. This is wrong and we need to correct it. For this reason that the government is moving to enact this amendment to the Criminal Records Act to enable thousands of Belizeans to apply for automatic expungement of their COVID-19 convictions without the need for them to wait any longer. Again, however, the automatic expungement process will only be applicable to those who have no other criminal offense, as it should be, as a repeat or serial offender should never be able to benefit from an automatic or accelerated expungement process. This amendment would ensure that only first-time offenders who are convicted and sentenced for possession of cannabis or cannabis resin and any COVID-19 related offense would benefit from the automatic expungement process. Where a person does not qualify for an automatic or accelerated expungement, we'll have to wait the 3 to 5 year period to have these convictions expunged. This will only be the case if the person has some other conviction. Now, Madam Speaker, given that the Criminal Records Act now lays out the laws for expungement of criminal records in Belize, provisions found in Section 28B of the Misuse of Drugs Act are repetitive and unnecessary and would be inconsistent with the provisions in the Criminal Records Act. Consequently, and as I said, we'll get to this later, the Misuse of Drugs Amendment Bill 2024 will seek to repeal Section 28 of the Misuse of Drugs Act to avoid redundancy and inconsistency in the law. A final point, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to apprise the Honorable House and the nation of what we on this side of the House, the government, regards as a significant and important initiative being undertaken by the government, which is tied to the introduction of both bills and the fulfillment of this government's criminal justice reform agenda for a firm but fair criminal justice system. I'm referring to the government's move to advocate to the Governor General to exercise her powers under the Summary Jurisdiction Procedure Act to remit the fines currently owed by first-time offenders convicted of COVID-19 related offenses and possession of cannabis. By first-time offenders, I'm referring to those persons who have not reoffended and only have that COVID-19 offense conviction or that possession of cannabis offense at one offense on their record. Repeat or serial offenders, again, would not qualify. This is a power, Madam Speaker, given by the National Assembly to the Governor General to remit in whole or in part any sum of money imposed as a penalty on any person convicted of a summary conviction offense that is a non-serious offense. It is estimated that over 3,500 persons could be beneficiaries of this initiative. 2,547 first-time offenders convicted of COVID-19 related offenses and 1,011 first-time offenders convicted of the possession of cannabis and fined less than $1,000. As you know, in real time, when a fine remains unpaid, that offender is liable to be committed to prison. So in real time, these over 3,000 persons if they are convicted, first-time offenders convicted of possession of cannabis, can be imprisoned. That's the reality facing them. I should point out that in a letter titled Effective Use of Belize Central Prison to the government on 28 February earlier this year, the then president of the Bar Association, Senior Counsel Marshall-elect, wrote that at the time of the writing, 70 prisoners were incarcerated at the Belize Central Prison for breach of COVID regulations. He wrote that there was no utility to society for keeping these prisoners confined in the Belize Central Prison, and urged that the sentences be forthwith commuted, and the government relieved of the financial burden to house these 70 prisoners for offenses that were no longer on the law books. Madam Speaker, the government has adopted a similar sensible, pragmatic and just approach in advocating to the Governor General to remit the fines of these over 3,500 persons. The expenditure that government will incur to house and care for these persons, were they to be incarcerated for non-payment of these fines, is far greater than the fines to be paid. Additionally, there can be no utility in incarcerating one-time offenders for breach of COVID-19 regulations or possession of cannabis. There is thus good policy reason and justification for the approach taken by this government, consistent with its approach to criminal justice reform. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Minister, before I refer that bill, since you mentioned the link with the other bill, would you like us to move that up so we join both and we make one referral to the same committee? That would be the Misuse of Drugs Amendment Bill 2024.
Thank you for that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is the Misuse of Drugs Bill 2024. I rise to introduce a bill for an act to repeal provisions relating to the expungement of certain convictions and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. This bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet, Madam Speaker. I've already, I think, addressed this matter extensively in my remarks, so I won't add anything further, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Honourable members, those bills are referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration and report.
Bill for an act to amend the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, Act number 11 of 2024, to repeal and replace provisions relating to automatic expungement, to allow for the automatic expungement of any conviction for a first offense for possession of cannabis or cannabis resin, and a first offense for any COVID-19 related offense, and to provide for matters connected therewith and incidental thereto. Bill for an act to repeal provisions relating to the certain convictions and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is the Global Fund Privileges and Immunities Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to provide privileges and immunities to the Global Fund and to persons who are representatives constituting the organs of the Global Fund, officials acting in the interest of the Global Fund, members of the Global Fund Technical Review Panel, members of the Global Fund Technical Evaluation Reference Group, and experts on missions in the interest of the Global Fund in the fight against AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Madam Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet. Just very quickly to say, Madam Speaker, that this is very straightforward. This is simply a fulfillment of our diplomatic obligations to provide privileges and immunities to organizations like the Global Fund. The Global Fund is a worldwide partnership established to defeat HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria, and other infectious diseases. It is the largest multilateral funder of global health grants in developing countries like Belize. So we're very grateful for the work the Global Fund is doing and will continue to do in Belize, and it is our obligation and duty to provide them with these privileges and immunities. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, that bill is referred to the Health and Human Development Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for an act to provide privileges and immunities to the Global Fund and to persons who are representatives constituting the organs of the Global Fund, officials acting in the interests of the Global Fund, members of the Global Fund Technical Review Panel, members of the Global Fund Technical Evaluation Reference Group, and experts on missions in the interests of the Global Fund in the fight against AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Motions relating to the business or sittings of the House.
I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I move that at its rising today, the House adjourn to a date to be fixed by the Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that the House at its rising today adjourn to a date to be fixed by the Speaker. All those in favour kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Public business, government business, motion.
I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, this is a resolution to celebrate 35 years of diplomatic ties with the Democratic Taiwan Motion 2024. Madam Speaker, I move, whereas on the 11th of October 2024 marks the 35th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Belize and the Republic of China, Taiwan, and whereas Belize and Taiwan enjoy cordial relationship and share the common values of freedom, democracy, and human rights, and whereas throughout the 35 years of friendship and alliance, Belize and Taiwan have continuously supported each other and closely cooperated in areas of mutual interest, including climate change, health, agriculture, education, and gender equality. And whereas all bilateral cooperation projects between Belize and Taiwan, including infrastructure development, enhancing digital literacy and accessibility, agricultural development, urban resilience and disaster prevention, metabolic chronic disease prevention, women entrepreneurship and empowerment, Mandarin teaching, and talent cultivation are currently proceeding smoothly. And whereas, following the successful state visit of Her Excellency Dr. Tsai Ing-wen, President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, to Belize in early April 2023, further strengthened and expanded cooperation between the governments of Taiwan and Belize in infrastructure and medical care, low-income housing, and renovation of the National Assembly building, showcasing the strong partnership between the two nations. And whereas Taiwan not only is a faithful ally and development partner of Belize, but can contribute to addressing global challenges, making it a valuable member of the global community. And whereas on the 13th January 2024, Taiwan successfully concluded a smooth and well-conducted presidential and legislative election, demonstrating once again the strength of Taiwan's robust democratic system and electoral processes. And whereas myself, the Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, led a delegation to attend the inauguration of His Excellency Dr. Lai Ching-te as the new President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, on the 20th May 2024, demonstrating the commitment and support of the government of Belize to the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan. And whereas Belize is a steadfast partner, continuously and unwaveringly supports Taiwan in safeguarding its democracy and freedom, as well as the self-determination of Taiwanese people in the face of potential military, political, and economic coercion and hegemonic threats from the People's Republic of China, the PRC. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Honorable House celebrates the 35th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between Belize and Taiwan and extends its commitment to the strong partnership and close bilateral cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Congratulate Taiwan's successful democratic election and the inauguration of Dr. Lai Ching-te, the new President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and reaffirms solidarity to stand with the people and government of Taiwan to safeguard Taiwan's democracy, freedom, human rights, and self-determination, critical to maintaining peace, stability, and prosperity across the Taiwan Strait and in the region. Expresses its full support for Taiwan's participation in all related international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, WHO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, and International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to President Lai Ching-te of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and to the office of the Prime Minister of Belize as a tangible token of the friendship expressed therein. This motion has recommendation of the Cabinet.
I recognize the member for Colette.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I preface my remarks on this motion today by saying that I hope I can speak on behalf of the opposition. I say that, Madam Speaker, because indeed we are bound to be on the same page, but when we are not a part of the parliamentary caucus that decides on what position we'll take, we just have to assume we're on the same page. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm sure my leader will get up and correct me if this is not the position, but on behalf of the opposition, we express our full support. There's one opposition. It's an opposition to the government, His Majesty's loyal opposition. On behalf of the opposition, we express our full support for this motion to commemorate and celebrate 35 years of diplomatic ties between Belize and the Republic of China, Taiwan. This long-standing partnership has been built on mutual respect, shared values, and a commitment to democracy, freedom, and human rights. Belize's relationship with Taiwan has seen cooperation in critical areas such as infrastructure development, education, and I was very pleased, Madam Speaker, in the 13 years that I was Minister of Education, to be a part of ceremonies to send hundreds of Belizeans to Taiwan in order to get their education to contribute to Belize's development. Healthcare as well, and climate change resilience. We recognize, Madam Speaker, and applaud Taiwan's continuous contribution to Belize's development, especially in enhancing digital literacy, agricultural development, and disaster preparedness. Taiwan's partnership has played a vital role in strengthening our nation's capacity to address challenges, and its unwavering support for Belize has been instrumental in various areas of our national development. Taiwan's commitment to democracy, something which my colleague and I from Albert hold to be very dear and sacred, as evident. Taiwan's commitment to this democracy, Madam Speaker, is evidenced by its peaceful and well-conducted presidential and legislative elections earlier this year. It serves as a beacon, Madam Speaker, of hope and inspiration in the global community. We congratulate Taiwan on the inauguration of President Lai Ching-te and reaffirm our solidarity with the Taiwanese people as they navigate regional changes. We also echo the call, Madam Speaker, for Taiwan's inclusion in international organizations such as the United Nations, the WHO, the ICAO, and others. Taiwan's contributions, Madam Speaker, to global public health, international aviation safety, and climate mitigation cannot be overlooked, and we believe that the international community would benefit from Taiwan's participation. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, we, all of us on this side, stand with the government of Belize in reaffirming our commitment to deepening this valuable partnership, ensuring that the ties between our two nations continue to grow for the benefit of both peoples. We support the motion in its entirety and look forward to continued cooperation with Taiwan in promoting democracy, peace, and shared prosperity.
I recognize the member for Albert.
Thank you,
Member, the
Madam
mic, yeah.
Speaker. I stand in this honorable house, Madam Speaker. Can we have respect for the motion, member for picks up? Thank you. To affirm and support this motion that seeks to solidify the relationship, the friendship, the partnership between Belize and Taiwan. We thank the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan for their solidarity, for their support for Belize's sovereignty as it relates to the territorial claim of Guatemala on portions of our country. We thank them for supporting our shared values. That includes the right to self-determination, democracy, and a peaceful existence within the global community. We thank the government and people of the Republic of Taiwan for their contributions they have made, particularly to education for young Belizeans, for their contributions to agriculture and health and economic development, for their contributions to culture and tourism, low-income housing, technology and information, climate change, and disaster preparedness. We thank the Republic of China, Taiwan for their support for entrepreneurship, especially for the women and young girls in Belize. We share common values. and it is without any reservation that we support this motion in its entirety, and we look forward to many more years of a productive partnership with the Republic of China, Taiwan. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Belize Rural Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I merely wanted to add my voice to support of this motion. And like my colleague from the Albert Division, I would like to recognize Taiwan's sterling support for gender equality and women's empowerment in Belize. I want to recognize that the former President Tsai was most gracious in her visit to Belize and in her support and Taiwan's support for our country. And I want to also recognize Ambassador Lily Xu, the first woman ambassador of Taiwan to Belize, for her sterling contributions continuing. I also want to say, Madam Speaker, that we are now implementing several projects that have been supported by Taiwan. One that is entitled Enhancing the Economic Empowerment of Women, and it is providing skills training opportunities, business incubation programs, digital marketing experiences, financial relief counseling, and access to seed capital. Over 1,000 women and their families have benefited from this program, and numerous local women's organizations from across the country have benefited. I'm thinking of the one that took place in Pueblo Viejo in Toledo West for women's empowerment through sewing of uniforms, etc. And I also want to say that the project has supported the Office of Special Envoy Rosana Briceño in the implementation of gender sensitization and gender-based violence prevention training for men and boys. Most innovative and definitely to be commended. There has also been the signing just yesterday of the Ministry of Human Development along with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a new round of women's empowerment programs. And I'd like to add that the ministry received funding from Taiwan through the Central American Integration Program and Belize's representative, Ms. Anita Zetina, for the implementation of an elderly home care training program. Again, Madam Speaker, most innovative and with the full support of Ambassador Lily and the people and government of the Republic of China, Taiwan. I only wish to add that we say thank you again to the Republic of China, Taiwan, for coming alongside us as we move forward in achieving our national vision of economic prosperity, women's empowerment, and social protection for all. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Toledo West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise this morning to give my full support to the motion that is before us. But, Madam Speaker, I want to ask your indulgence to kindly allow me very quickly to take the opportunity to welcome our newest member to this side of the House, the Honorable Dr. Martinez, who joined us today, Madam Speaker, and earlier was sworn in. I want to congratulate him and to thank him, and we all look forward to working with him as he delivers to the beautiful constituency and people of Toledo East. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support this motion that is before us, in its full entirety. And I want to say that, as has been echoed by several members who went ahead of us, we have enjoyed a very strong, cordial relationship with the Republic of China, Taiwan, for the last 35 years. As a country, we have benefited in several areas, including agriculture, health, housing, and many other technical areas, particularly in the area of education, where we have seen hundreds of students, going to study in Taiwan, and many of our students are from the Toledo district and they have benefited. So we are very grateful for that opportunity. Madam Speaker, as mentioned by the honorable member from Belize Rural Central, just recently we completed a major project of women empowerment, women and economic empowerment in the South, where we saw women in Stan Creek West completing a very long training that will empower them to be able to lead and have their own businesses. We also have the women in Pueblo Viejo. Their project is going to come to a close at the end of September. And again, we are proud to partner with the ICDF here in Belize, the technical mission, as well as the ambassador in implementing these projects. So suffice to say, we have a strong partner, we have a strong colleague. We congratulate the Republic of China, Taiwan, and we look forward to working with them for the years to come to build a stronger relationship and partnership to promote peace and democracy in Belize, in Taiwan, and across the world. I thank you.
I recognize the member for Stan Creek, and then I'll go to you afterwards, member.
Madam Speaker, I likewise stand to support the motion. As a parliamentarian for many years, I also enjoy the benefits from the Republic of China, Taiwan. As Minister Oscar just said a while ago, that the women in Stan Creek, just last week, received their certificate for women in politics and training through the government of Taiwan. So I really want to applaud their effort in this region. Their contribution to Belize is significant, and we really appreciate it. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to take the opportunity to welcome our brother Dr. Osmond Martinez, to be a part of the southern constituencies. Together, we are going to work for the benefit of the people of the South. We are going to bring the South 100% PM, that is guaranteed. And beside the point, Madam Speaker, yesterday there was an incident at the Belize City bus terminal. Thank God it was not fatal, and hope that we can figure out how we can remedy the situation. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Toledo East.
Madam Speaker, I rise this morning with a lot of pride, at the same time with a lot of humbleness. And I stand to support the motion, and I beg for your indulgence I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the people of Toledo East who have given me the privilege, because it's not an honor, it's not that I deserve it. It's a privilege that we have to be here. And just by standing here this morning and thinking that Belize have about approximately 400,000 people, and we have a privilege of 31 seats, 31 Belizean people to represent the beautiful people of our country. And I want to give the greatness and say thank you to each village. And I beg for your indulgence here, Madam Speaker. I have 21 villages to represent and one tongue. And so from Graham Creek to Boom Creek, from Machakilha to Dolores, from Otosha to San Lucas, to Sondewood to Conejo, from Criquesarco to Santa Ana, from Elridge to Forest Home, from Bleeding to Cattle Landing, San Isidro to San Pablo, from Monkey River to Barranco, and from Bella Vista to the capital of Toledo, Punta Gorda, I bring greetings to you all from the chocolate capital, Toledo. No, Colombia is... But we represent 21 communities that, and one tongue that today have given me the privilege to be here. And I want to thank every single voter that went out for the by-elections to put me here. Madam Speaker, I stand to support this motion. My experience with the government of Taiwan, especially when I was at the CEO in the Ministry of Economic Development, and working very closely with the Central American Bank of Economic Integration, CABEI. They are the owners, or they are shareholders of CABEI, and they are the largest shareholders. 11% of CABEI is owned by the government of Taiwan and is run under the ICDF, the International Cooperation Development Fund. Now, what the International Cooperation Development Fund has done for Belize is that they have provided many grants for technical assistance and feasibility studies. But they have also helped us to reduce the cost of finance, because as you all may know, the cost of finance is very high in the global market. It is about at 5.6%. Now, with the support from ICDF and the government of Taiwan, we can do blended finance, and we are able to reduce the cost of finance at an average of 3%. I also want to thank all who have wished me well here, and I am ready to work and to serve the people of Toledo East, and as an extension, the people of Belize. Thank you.
Honorable members.
Madam Speaker, just try to wrap this up, Madam Speaker. I want to thank everyone of those that got up to speak in support of this motion, Madam Speaker, but I find it kind of troubling, or amusingly troubling, that it seems as we have two oppositions on the other side, and you know, because we have two of the members getting up and to support this motion, but it troubles me, Madam Speaker, that the leader of the opposition, the official leader of the opposition, for now, I don't know for how long, refuses to get up and to say that they support this motion. I find this incredible. After all that Taiwan has done for this country, this gentleman over there is going to sit down quietly and refuses to get up and say that they support the good people and government of Taiwan. It is troubling to this country, Madam Speaker, because it seems that he wants to sell out. It seems that that is what he just wants. What, why you want to sell way out now to the other side? Why you don't want to get up and talk? You come on. It's a shame, man. Yeah? See, there you go. See,
you want me to talk about the millions of dollars that
no member. No member. No member.
Out of respect for some of my colleagues who
member. There's no point of order. Member.
Go ahead.
Tell them
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Leader of the opposition. Leader of the opposition.
I didn't notice. I noticed. What if you weren't? What? Bring the evidence. Bring the evidence. Bring the evidence. Madam Speaker, the point is that we have two honorable members of the opposition that had the decency and the honor to get up and to support this motion. But yet the so-called leader of the opposition refuses to get up and speak out and to say...
Mr. Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, member from Mesopotamia, I would hope that you appreciate, especially now, given the temporary location, that we're in a narrower space. And so I appreciate the respect of the standing orders. You did not stand on the motion. The Prime Minister is closing. Thank you. Not in this space.
Maybe we may need to do that. But yes, Madam Speaker, I just need to say that I find it troubling that the leader of the opposition, the so-called leader of the opposition for the time being, refuses to get up and say that he supports this motion. With that, Madam Speaker, I thank all the members that have supported this motion, and that we can continue to strengthen the relationship between the government and people of Taiwan and Belize. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, that motion is referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration and report. I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I seek the indulgence of this Honourable House to have this motion taken through all its stages today.
Honourable members, the question is that this motion be taken through all its stages this day. All those in favour kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Announcement by the Speaker.
Honourable members, it has been agreed that the resolution to celebrate 35 years of diplomatic ties with Democratic Taiwan Motion 2024 be passed this day. As you are well aware, under Standing Order number 74, all proposed legislation, messages, petitions, motions, and other matters relating to the subject mentioned under the title of each standing committee shall be referred by the House to such committee for examination, consideration, and report to the House. The way for this to be done, other than by suspension of standing orders, is for me to suspend the sitting to enable the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee to examine, consider, and report to the House on the motion. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. Before I move to suspend the House, Honourable Prime Minister, I'll ask that we dispense with the standing order on the lunch hour.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 12(8), I move that the proceedings on the order paper may be entered upon and proceeded with at this day's sitting at any hour though opposed.
Honourable members, the question is that the proceedings on the order paper may be entered upon and proceeded with at this day's sitting at any hour though opposed. All those in favour kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. The sitting is therefore suspended until the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee has concluded its business. May I, with your indulgence, members, may I recognize the presence of the Honourable Ambassador Lily Xu. The committee will now be meeting, Ambassador, so you can still witness the official passing.
Presentation of report from Select Committee.
I recognize the Honorable Chairperson of the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee.
Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table sessional paper number HR 267/1/13, report from the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee on the resolution to celebrate 35 years of diplomatic ties with the Democratic Taiwan Motion 2024. Thank you.
Honorable members, that report is ordered to lie on the table.
Public business, government business motion.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, this is the resolution to celebrate 35 years of diplomatic ties with the Democratic Taiwan Motion 2024. Madam Speaker, with your permission, not to repeat the recitals of the motion, I move now therefore be it resolved that this Honorable House celebrates the 35th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Belize and Taiwan and extends its commitment to the strong partnership and close bilateral cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Congratulates Taiwan's successful democratic election and the inauguration of Dr. Lai Ching-te, the new president of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and we affirm solidarity to stand with the people and government of Taiwan to safeguard Taiwan's democracy, freedom, human rights, and self-determination, critical to maintaining peace, stability, and prosperity across the Taiwan Strait and in the region. Expresses its full support for Taiwan's participation in all related international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, WHO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, and the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to President Lai Ching-te of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and to the office of the Prime Minister of Belize as a tangible token of the friendship expressed therein.
Honorable members, the question, is there a point of order?
Yes, Madam Speaker. In accordance with Standing Order 46, before you put the question to the decision of the House, I'd like to call for a division of the House, Madam Speaker.
Acting Clerk, we have a request for a division on the vote.
A division has been called on the resolution to celebrate 35 years of diplomatic ties with Democratic Taiwan, Motion 2024. The Honorable John Briceño.
Yes.
The Honorable Cordell Hyde.
Yes.
The Honorable Francis Fonseca.
Aye.
The Honorable Jose Abelardo May.
Aye.
The Honorable Julius Espat.
Aye.
The Honorable Rodwell Ferguson.
Aye.
The Honorable Dolores Valderramos Garcia.
Aye.
The Honorable Karim Musa.
Yes.
The Honorable Florencio Marin Jr. Absent. The Honorable Oscar Requena. The Honorable Orlando Habet. Absent. The Honorable Anthony Mahler. Absent. The Honorable Henry Charles Usher.
Aye.
The Honorable Michelle Chebat.
Aye.
The Honorable Kevin Bernard.
Aye.
The Honorable Abner Andre Perez.
Aye.
The Honorable Dr. Osmond Martinez.
Yes.
The Honorable Ramon Cervantes.
Aye.
The Honorable Ramiro Ramirez.
200 for them.
The Honorable Oscar Mira.
Yes.
The Honorable Marconi Leal. Absent. The Honorable Gilroy Usher. The Honorable Luis Alex Balona. The Honorable Jorge Espat. The Honorable Dr. Honorable Luis Zabani. Honorable Elvia Vega Samos. The Honorable Moses Barrow. The Honorable Hugo Pat. The Honorable Denise Barrow. Absent. The Honorable Patrick Faber. The Honorable Tracy Panton.
Yes.
Second members, please, while the acting clerk confirms the count. Honorable members, the question is now therefore be it resolved that this Honorable House celebrates the 35th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Belize and Taiwan, and extends its commitment to the strong partnership and close bilateral cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Congratulates Taiwan's successful democratic election and the inauguration of Dr. Lai Ching-te, the new President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and reaffirms solidarity to stand with the people and government of Taiwan to safeguard Taiwan's democracy, freedom, human rights, and self-determination, critical to maintaining peace, stability, and prosperity across the Taiwan Strait and in the region. Expresses its full support for Taiwan's participation in all related international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the International Criminal Police Organization. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to President Lai Ching-te of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and to the Office of the Prime Minister of Belize as a tangible token of the friendship expressed herein. Based on the division of votes, there were 25 yes, 5 absent, and 1 abstention. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
I recognize the Leader of Opposition, Member for Mesopotamia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Pleasant good afternoon to you, Madam Speaker, and to colleagues on both sides, the Belizean people, especially those in Mesopotamia, and all of the other constituencies I have the privilege of serving as the leader of the UDP. Madam Speaker, I'd like to offer if you would please oblige me before I get into my issue of national importance, I'd like to offer the deepest sympathies on behalf of the United Democratic Party opposition to the family of Daniel Cal. It's a young man, 26 years old, that was murdered in police custody this week. And also like to join with the government of Belize in acknowledging those Belizean patriots. Yesterday I had the pleasure to attend the awards ceremony, and I'd like to recognize the former Governor General, Sir Colville Young, who got the Order of Belize, and famed musician Mr. Francis Reno, who got the Order of Distinction. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, for the record, the member from Albert and Collett are no longer a part of the United Democratic Party. So when the member from Collett says that he speaks on behalf of the opposition, he doesn't. There's one leader of the opposition. Yes, they are opposition, because if Will Mejia got elected tomorrow, he'd be a member of the opposition, but they are no longer members of the party. So they speak for themselves, and the people that elected them know. No, if you respect democracy, you respect what the party has decided. But Madam Speaker, my issue of national importance, Madam Speaker, is the $7 million land purchase that took place recently, Madam Speaker. And this is a hot button issue, Madam Speaker, whereas we had a motion passed in this honorable House with the generous support of the Saudi Fund, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We thank them profusely for the $90 million that they gave to build a tertiary hospital that was supposed to be a hospital located at the University of Belize to serve as a teaching facility for their faculty of medicine. And then we see that the government of Belize, the Prime Minister says he knows nothing about it. We see that they switched, they altered their direction, they altered the vision that they had, which to me, it was a great vision, one that we did not believe would come to fruition, and unfortunately it has not. When the announcement was made as to this land purchase, the president of the University of Belize said that he was very upset. He's very unhappy with that decision, Madam Speaker. And the chairman of the Board of Trustees had commented weeks ago that the board did not support the government's decision to move the location of the tertiary hospital. And as recent as this week, the chairman of the board spoke to the media and said that they were prepared to offer the government of Belize suitable land with the 800 acres that they possess if the initial land that was identified was not suitable, Madam Speaker. And this is a very pressing matter because you have malfeasance, the accusation of malfeasance from many stakeholders, the unions, and many other stakeholders, including the opposition and different independent parties, came out to the Prime Minister's office weeks ago to protest this land acquisition that makes absolutely no sense, Madam Speaker, for a government that is always crying on hard times, for a government that can't find money to pay our public officers sufficiently, for a government that can't find money to make sure that all children have access to education, Madam Speaker, for a government that cannot find money for social programs, for them to be able to find $6.9 million to pay to Kenny Zeng, one of their known supporters and donors, when they have the property available at the University of Belize. Now the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the University of Belize is saying to them, okay, that land was not sufficient for you, we will find other land for you, Madam Speaker. It is truly a travesty, Madam Speaker. We cannot understand why this government misled members of Parliament on May 19, 2023, Madam Speaker. And we do not want to believe the accusations of corruption, Madam Speaker. But how else can you qualify and justify paying $6.9 million for a land acquisition, whereas the private owners paid about $600,000 for those 12 to 15 acres, Madam Speaker? It simply does not make sense, Madam Speaker. It is inconsistent with the motion passed in this honorable House, Madam Speaker, and unfortunately we have an Auditor General that has been absent. We've written to her, written to the Contractor General, written to the Saudi Fund, written to the Ombudsman, but key is the Auditor General, who is supposed to be keeping track of how monies are being spent. We've had a JPAC that has been defunct. Hopefully with that membership being changed now to have new membership from the opposition, we will see activity in making sure that we know where our monies are being spent, Madam Speaker, because our monies are not being properly spent, Madam Speaker, when we have $6.9 million, a markup of 1,000%, Madam Speaker, going to two individuals. Whereas if you have the construction of the tertiary hospital at the University of Belize, Madam Speaker, that would bring such great benefit to the students of Belize. The infrastructure, I have heard my colleagues on that side saying that, well, the infrastructure would cost too much, or the infrastructure would cost as much as the cost for the land acquisition, Madam Speaker, but that is such a backward, short-sighted, nonsensical perspective, Madam Speaker, because if you create the infrastructure that will facilitate the medical faculty, that will facilitate the tertiary hospital on the property of the University of Belize, not just the property, the campus, Madam Speaker, whatever infrastructure would be invested in would be to the benefit of the people in Belmopan. Right now, the $6.9 million is only to the benefit of 2 business people that are from Corozal, Madam Speaker. No benefit to the people of Belmopan. Where is the vision that was outlined in this House, Madam Speaker, for the Faculty of Medicine, for the teaching facility, Madam Speaker, for the students of the University of Belize, Madam Speaker? The head of the student union was at the Prime Minister's office protesting this repugnant deal, Madam Speaker. So we call, Madam Speaker, on this government to reverse this ill-advised decision, Madam Speaker, that can only be described as corruption, that can only be described as malfeasance, Madam Speaker, and to take on the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the University of Belize, to get back our money. I remember this Prime Minister famously said, bring back the millions. He was talking about a former Prime Minister from that side because he claimed that they had stole millions and millions of dollars. One of the members, or 2 of the members' father, won't call his name because he's ailing right now, Madam Speaker. But we need back our millions. That $6.9 million, Madam Speaker, does not belong to any member of Parliament, Madam Speaker. That $6.9 million does not belong to the Prime Minister, the Financial Secretary, the Ministry of Finance. It does not belong to the Ministry of Health. That $6.9 million belongs to the people of Belize, Madam Speaker. And if you look at the quality of individuals that were gathered at the Prime Minister's office, the head of the BNTU, the head of the KHMHU, the head of the PSU, the head of the NTUCB, the head of the Christian Workers Union, and the head of the National Student Union, Madam Speaker. The Prime Minister needs to yield to the voice of the people. They find it repugnant. The head of the Karl Hushner Memorial Hospital Union said that the location of the land acquired is a health hazard, Madam Speaker, because of the sewage pond. But this is what happens when you have elected members of the House that are supposed to be holding the government accountable, struggling for power, fighting for self-gain, fighting against, Madam Speaker, against the same entity that should be the oversight body for the government, Madam Speaker. This is what happens when you have distractions, Madam Speaker. So those that love Belize, those that care about our finances being spent in a way that is beneficial to all Belizeans, not just to Kenny Zeng and his business partner, Madam Speaker, not just to cronies of the government, but to the students of the University of Belize, whose name this Prime Minister used in his motion, Madam Speaker, who it appears was a part of the presentation made to the Saudi fund, Madam Speaker. We cannot allow the government to have unfettered power, Madam Speaker, and the Prime Minister needs to have humility and yield to the heads of unions, yield to the stakeholders, yield to the President of the University of Belize is telling you that he does not agree with what you're doing. The board of the University of Belize is telling you that they don't agree with what you're doing. Humble yourself. 26 seats does not allow you to dismiss the voices of the people, Madam Speaker. So I call on you to take on the board of the University of Belize and to build the tertiary hospital on the campus of the University of Belize and to bring back the millions from Kenny Zeng, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I recognize the
Madam Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. It would seem to me like the leader of the opposition is confused with governments, because this government does not cry about no money not there. That another government
even though when we got in, things were really, really bad in this country, we've not leaned on that excuse. In fact, this government has spent more money on education than ever before. We've built more cement houses in the last 20 years than ever before. We've created far more jobs than ever before. And we have far more people under NHI than ever before. You know, there's nowhere, no law, no rule that says that a medical university has to be on a university campus. In fact, truth be told, hundreds, if not thousands, of university hospitals are located off university campuses, because these university hospitals don't just serve the university, they would serve the larger community. And if I am reading this resolution correctly, Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, it says that this resolution that we passed in June, I believe, says that now therefore be it resolved that this Honourable House, being satisfied that the loan proceeds would significantly assist the government of Belize to finance a tertiary hospital in the Belmopan area. They didn't say University of Belize campus, said in the Belmopan area. But we've discussed this thing at length. The Minister of Health had a very lengthy press conference on the matter, and perhaps it is worth reminding the folks in here and the nation of how we got here. The truth of the matter is that Ministry of Health officials went to Cabinet and rubbished the proposed location from the university. Rubbished it, said it was too far, too inaccessible, too costly to develop. There was no water, no light, no internet, no roads. In fact, we would have to buy land to put in those roads to reach that particular location, because they sold the land. And it would take some time to develop that particular area. They were convincing, very, very clear in terms of their position. And Cabinet was mindful that these are the experts. These are the people who know where the hospital is best located. They also added that workers at that hospital would have to traverse 6 miles from the main highway each day to reach work. We're not even talking about patients, just talking about workers. So it would have represented some hardship on those workers on a daily basis. So Cabinet was mindful that these are the people who are the experts, and they were tasked with coming up with a location. Now remember this hospital is not going to be just for the university. It will be for the greater public. In fact, it's a tertiary hospital, particularly for the residents who come from the far-flung villages and towns of the westernmost and southernmost part of this country. And so identifying a location that was kind of a nexus, kind of a middle ground, was important. And that's why they didn't consider, for example, on the Hummingbird Highway somewhere, but rather at this middle ground where the Hummingbird Highway meets the George Price Highway. They came to the natural resources and said, listen, in their mind, the most ideal location is between the Hector Silva Airstrip and Guanacaste Park. They asked us to research that. We researched that. There were 6 parcels there. Note that there's no national land there. It's all private land. There are 6 parcels. 2 of them roadside, have erections, buildings on them. 2 are located many hundreds of feet off the highway, and 2 that were on the roadside, unencumbered, but private property. Ministry of Health decided those are the 2 they want. Combination of 15 acres. Those 2 parcels they want for this hospital. They consider that location to be the best location for several reasons.
One is roadside, so it's easy access for those coming from the west, those coming from the south. But those particular parcels allowed for accessibility for Belmopan residents without having to traverse the Hummingbird Highway, without having to traverse the George Price Highway. That there were multiple access routes to reach that hospital for Belmopan residents. To the polyclinic. They said that's what they wanted. So negotiations ensued. These landowners got their private valuations. Government got a valuation. Private valuation came in at $9.3 million. The government's valuation came in at $6.2 million. You'd say, man, that's high. But the truth of the matter is, land in Belmopan is scarce. Land in Belmopan is valuable. Land in Belmopan is expensive. It's selling for a very high price. Now, the government's valuation referred to a house lot, a vacant house lot that was sold in 2020, not too far from this particular location, for $100,000. That's 4 years ago. Another vacant lot, not too far away, on the George Price Highway, was sold in 2023 for $290,000. That's a .33 acre of a land, not too far away from that location. There's another a half acre, a vacant lot, a half acre, in and around Belmopan that was sold this year, valued by the Stamps Commissioner at $600,000, 0.46 of an acre. Up the Hummingbird, just past the roundabout, I understand they have 6 acres being sold for $4 million. Another 4 lots around the roundabout off the George Price Highway was recently valued at $2.3 million. These lands are not cheap. If you want lands in and around Belmopan, you have to pay. The land that the Ministry of Health officials identified were not national land. We wish they were. We wouldn't have to pay. But they were private lands, and so government had to pay. A negotiation ensued. These folks wanted 9.3. Government said 6.2. They came back and said they'd settle for 6.9. An agreement was established. Government made an initial down payment. They made a second payment. And then the owners, through the attorneys, came and said they want all their money before they can hand over the title. Government has to present a title. Government has to own the land. Government has to present a title to the Saudis, or else there's no loan agreement, right? Yes, but that is, you'll pay more. When you acquire a land in the public's interest, you still have to pay. In fact, you are going to pay more. In fact, huh? Well, listen, we just got handed a court case, a court ruling from the highest court in all the land for 1.25 acres for $10 million when you add up all the interest, you know. $10 million, right? If the folks are prepared to sell you the land, then you don't have to compulsorily acquire. You compulsorily acquire when the folks don't want to sell you the land, but you, the government, deem that this is needed for the public's interest, right? And you will have to pay no matter what. And oftentimes when you go the route of the compulsory acquisition, it drags on in court for a long time because these people are going to bring a valuation that's probably higher than 9.3. And we will have our 6.2, and the court will settle the matter. And oftentimes the news we get are not the news we want to hear. It costs us millions of dollars. So it sounds good. It's land. It sounds good that we will compulsorily acquire the land, but you're still going to have to pay, and you probably end up paying more because the experts will tell you that that 6.2 valuation may have been conservative when you consider the fact that a lot not too far away from that location is being sold or was sold a year ago for $290,000. These people had already subdivided their land, was in the process of getting final subdivision approval. They had already set up that they were going to sell their lands by lots and by commercial plots. So the valuer, ethically, he has to value the land based on that reality. And so he valued it based on the numbers. I think it's maybe $116,000 a lot. Listen, that's on the lower side. When you consider that a lot that was sold recently, sold for $290,000. And I'll tell you about that sale. Usually when someone sells a lot or someone buys a lot and they go to the stamps commissioner, I'll say usually, like I don't want to cause aspersions, but oftentimes these people put the consideration far less than they paid. And the stamps commissioner have to upstamp it. This particular case, usually, in this particular case, those folks put that they paid $290,000 for that lot. They were not lying. Nobody forced them on that. On the other land that I'm telling you about, that's for $600,000 that the stamps commissioner valued at that. The folks put that they only paid $150,000. But the stamps commissioner knows better and know that land in and around that area was selling for $600,000 before. And so she upstamped it to $600,000. But that's the reality we are facing. Land is not cheap in and around Belmopan. It is not. It is going to cost you a pretty penny. And these folks, the experts at the Ministry of Health, deduced that this was the location. This was where they wanted the land. They were convinced this is a happy nexus to serve all the persons coming from the south, to serve all the persons coming from the west. Access, and to also serve the Belmopan community. Someone was saying that there was land across the highway that would have been a bit cheaper. It wouldn't work because persons from Belmopan would have to traverse the highway to reach the hospital. Imagine an emergency. That wouldn't work. You know, so these are the tough decisions that government has to make, right? And it sounds high, but that's the value of land in and around Belmopan, whether we want to accept it or not, right? And ultimately, government had to pay. They either pay now or they pay later. Government is in a position to pay now, and so they paid, right? And maybe I should say that government is in a position to pay now because we took back our Bolido. Yeah.
Criminal.
Right? Criminal. So, speaking about the Bolido, because that's allowed us to have money to do certain things. From December, over an 8-month period, government, I believe, generated $70 million in gross revenue, $15 million in net profit. By the end of the year, we would have generated $20 million in net profit. Through one, just by this government, this prime minister and this cabinet deciding that they're going to do the right thing. Because for 12 and a half years, the last government did the wrong thing and did the
Madam
people
Speaker,
of Belize
on a
alone.
point of order, please.
Right?
The point of order? What's the point of order?
Are we speaking about the $6.9 million acquisition of land, or are we speaking about Bolido?
I hear the point of order, but the member for Mesopotamia, leader of opposition, did raise the fact about crying of no money, I believe, and where the money is coming from. So I will allow it. Please, of course, let's try and restrict comments. But it's difficult, members. Members, please know it's always difficult when you stand and make your contribution and you introduce topic. The other side must be able to respond to those topics.
So I don't want to talk about Bolido, and we understand why. Because for 12 and a half years, they allowed the Bolido to be owned, to be controlled, and they allowed the people of Belize to be raped. Because this company generated or netted over $20 million in profits for 12 and a half years. Mr. Brads and his company of friends and cronies. That is, yeah. He was just a face. He was just a facade, you know. They're very highly connected people who benefited to the tune of $250 million. That's a billion with a B. The Prince of Bel-Air, very famous fella. $250 million. And this government, in doing the right thing, in doing what will benefit Belizeans, have established that the people of Belize will get the benefit of an additional $20 million till eternity every single year. And so you won't hear us cry about not having money. That's not what we do. The government of Belize right now is spending far more money on health than ever before. Spending far more money on education than ever before, right? That is not what I do. We don't cry. We are cut from a different cloth. We dig deep and figure out ways out of the mess. And that's what we've had to do since 2020. And yes, the decision to acquire this land, on the face of it sounds, boy, that's high. It's painful. But it's a $90 million loan that will establish a world-class tertiary hospital that will not just benefit the University of Belize, because the University of Belize will. It's going to be a university hospital. It's going to be their baby too, you know. But it's going to be the nation's baby. It's going to be benefited, the people who will benefit the most. We're going to sign an MOU pretty soon, right? UB, Ministry of Health, Government of Belize. Because ultimately, this will be their baby. But it's a tertiary hospital for the residents from the farthest flung villages and towns of the southernmost communities and the westernmost communities. This is a big deal. It costs us some money, but it's a big deal. So, Madam Speaker, this has been communicated before publicly at a long press conference. I want to change the little man had a press conference, right? And presented all the facts. And all the experts were there. Because people talk about the Sewer Lagoon, but the expert from BWS debunked all the talking points about Sewer Lagoon, right? The man said this thing has been expertly handled, right? Endorsed swimming there, but this thing was, right? Because the truth of the matter is that we don't have the luxury of having sewer lagoons miles and miles away from communities anymore. Community is growing, expanding, its population is growing. Well, she spoke eloquently about the reason why we had to move, right? So ultimately, we have to tame the lagoon. We can't surrender to the lagoon. There's not enough land in this community. And land is scarce, and land is expensive, and land is hard to come by. And so we cannot afford to have all the land around that area just lie there and not be used. That's just the reality. But anyways, I'm going on and on, but I hope that we address the concerns of the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Thank you.
I recognize the member for Corozal North, and then I'll go to you, Member for Albert.
The next part.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask of your indulgence, Madam Speaker, to bring an issue of urgent national importance, and it has to do with the condition of the Remate Road, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the actual paving of the Remate Road, which is a road that traverses in the heart of the Corozal North constituency, was a project that in itself was the brainchild of the United Democratic Party. It is a project, Madam Speaker, that saw or envisioned the benefit and the maximum benefit to the not only to the persons who would traverse the road, but to the more importantly to the villages in the heart of this area of our country. Madam Speaker, it took quite a while for us to put this project together, in that the consultation process itself was extensive. What we envisioned was for a project to actually address the needs of the people of Chanchen, Pachacan, Yochen, Cristo Rey, and San Pedro villages. And so the process in itself took the physical consultation with all village leaders and basically bringing all those together into the heart of a project. It took quite some time, and additional to that, it took quite a sum of funding. Madam Speaker, this took us way to the end of the period of the United Democratic Party and into the new cycle of this administration. The concerns of not only us at the level of leadership, but the concerns of villagers grew as we saw the project being initiated, construction in itself started, and there were certain components of this stretch of road not taken into consideration. I brought this issue, Madam Speaker, of the need for us to listen to our leaders, to listen to our villagers, and take into concerns while the construction was undergoing. It reached to the point that I brought certain issues, particularly the issue of drainage in the various villages, and it went to deaf ears, and it practically went to no avail. What has happened now, Madam Speaker, is that while in concept and probably in a fine project document, we have streets that are built under the scope or under the umbrella of being climate resilient. We are noticing that the road is actually falling apart. The actual completion and the inauguration of this stretch of road, Madam Speaker, was done on May 8, 2024, some 4-5 months from now. And what we're seeing now is what all villagers in my constituency feared, that certain areas or key components of the roads, of that actual road was cut. We heard openly here in this house that there were certain cuts, and it wasn't any small cut, it was some substantial cuts that, in my opinion and in the opinion of experts, would actually put into jeopardy the physical integrity of the roads. We have a road that was built some 3-4 months now, Madam Speaker, and it needs repairs. We have a new road and we need new patches. So, member for Kaya South, I would ask of you to please look into the matter. We need to start to patch a newly built road, and it doesn't take much. It will just take for people from the Ministry of, from your ministry, to actually look into the issues that we are now seeing. Additionally, Madam Speaker, if I may add a bit more, there is a stretch that was recently inaugurated as well. Actually, it took part of the inauguration of the Remate Road. There is a stretch right in front of the Escuela Secundaria Técnica Mexico compound, which needs some patching, so we have to do new patches. And there is a bigger section on the road leading to the northern border. That is a major hub for us, and I would ask of the Minister, the member for Cayo South, of the people in your ministry to look into those issues. As we have said and we feared, we knew exactly where we were heading ourselves into. We have millions of dollars that were spent on this road. The road is now flawed, so what we need to do is pay more to address the mess that has been done. And so all I would ask, it's not for the benefit of Ogopat, it is for the benefit of the thousands of people that actually traverse this section of road. And so all I would ask of you is to make us start with the patches. It needs urgent attention. At this point in time, we're hearing of all kinds of accidents happening while traffic is going on. And the last thing that we want to know is that an accident has been caused as a consequence of potholes that are on these roads. And so that is the issue that I would like to bring along. Thank you very much.
I recognize the Minister for Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, I'd just like to remind the member from Corozal North, the last time he brought this up, I had invited him to go to the site. I had also invited him to visit us at the ministry to see whatever concern he might have had. Up to this day, he has not visited us, he has not called us. We hear it now. I think it's because it's your 15 seconds of limelight. The specifications of the project was not done under the People's United Party government. The design, the feasibility, the specification were done under the time of the United Democratic Party. We only continued with the project based on the specifications that were provided by us. So if there is anything that you need to complain about, I think you should look in the mirror. Yeah. Apart from that, Madam Speaker, if there is any small concern that the member has raised, then because of the time frame that he has indicated, it is still under warranty, and our engineers do our periodic visits to make sure that the contractor complies. And if there is, and in any project, in any construction project throughout the entire world, there is a time frame that one sets aside so that the contractor can go back and remedy any possible problems that might occur. But again, I'm inviting you once more, come to our offices, look at what we have done. We can meet on the site with the chief engineer if you would like. Let's go over the whole situation. You have to understand that you are also in a low-lying area. It is we discussed this low-lying area many times. We discussed it with the hospital. We discussed it in Belize City. We discussed it in the north. Belize in general, apart from the Kaya and the southern districts, we are in a low-lying area, flood-prone zone. That is a reality, and we have to deal with it as it comes along. And climate resilient doesn't mean that it will withstand anything. It means that it's withstanding the specifications that are being brought to us at the moment. But every year it changes, and we have to keep adapting and keep moving and keep bettering so that we are in tune with the reality of the time. But I will repeat, member, come and visit us. Let's have a chat. Let's have a look on site to see what your concerns are. And if they're valid, we will address it. We don't run away from any problems or concerns. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Collett.
Madam Speaker, I recognize that when we speak about conduct, there's a proper place to do that. There's a proper time to do that in the standing orders. In fact, if we felt my colleague from Albert and I aggrieved enough, then we could have early this morning asked you to consider having us raise a privileged motion. We do not feel aggrieved to that extent, Madam Speaker, but I feel compelled to stand this evening to make it unequivocally clear that my colleague from Albert and I have not resigned from the United Democratic Party, nor do we accept, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition and the leader of our party's position that we have resigned from the United Democratic Party. I say, Madam Speaker, that we are not aggrieved enough, even though I will tell you that
just for clarity of the record, what is the matter of public importance? We normally ask that
the matter of public importance, Madam Speaker, is that the leader of the opposition, even though it was not his official presentation, just now when he stood on the adjournment, I would have left it alone had he not been allowed to say things. And I don't accuse you, Madam Speaker. You probably did not even know that what matter he would have spoken. In fact, he just snuck it in there. He was actually speaking on the hospital land deal. But the Belizean people must know, and if that is going to reflect on the record, then we must put on the record that we absolutely have not resigned and that we reject the leader of the opposition and the leader of the UDP's position that we have constructively resigned. Just let me illustrate to you, Madam Speaker, because we do have.
Member for Mesopotamia, please.
On a point of order, Madam Speaker, you asked what is the issue of national importance. I still have not heard in that response.
It is a matter of national importance. It is a matter of national importance, Madam Speaker.
I didn't
when
hear.
the
Leader of opposition,
leader
sit.
of a political party attempts to have duly elected representatives of his own party be removed. If that is not an emergency for the nation, then I don't know what is. But Madam Speaker, like I said, it is not a matter that we accuse you, certainly not, or anybody else in this House other than my colleague, the leader himself. You, Madam Speaker, I think, did what was required of you. You did your duty, and you were impartial in carrying out your response, your duty in the response that you gave to the leader of the opposition. But we do feel aggrieved, even though he is in his right to do what he has done. I dutifully went downstairs, Madam Speaker, to the committee meeting for, is it Constitution and Foreign Affairs, to support the motion on Taiwan, Madam Speaker, because I, like my colleagues in this House, except him apparently, and he did abstain, so I don't want to put him in a basket that he's not in, but I did that as a part of my duty to say to the nation and to say to the world.
Point of order, what is the issue of national importance? You, in your ruling, ruling to me,
Leader of opposition, kindly
internal party politics. You told me that you do not determine internal party politics.
Your seat. The member for Colette has clearly articulated the matter of public importance. I am listening to that.
And Madam Speaker, it is not party politics when, as I've been saying, I went dutifully downstairs to the committee room to participate on behalf of my party, who I know, but not because you say so. Anyway, Martha, could you talk to him so that he stops interrupting?
No, member for Mesopotamia, leader of the opposition. 42B,
you cannot pronounce on our internal matters, and he's lying. He's not a member of the UDP. Like me getting up saying, I'm the speaker then. Come on.
You did say that once, I believe. Member for Mesopotamia, you seem to have difficulty with respecting the chair. All I ask of all members, I don't get into your debates. Member, I don't get into the debates, that's not my role. My role is to follow the rules. My role is to try and moderate and referee as best as I can, given the rules. When I am speaking, you do not counter me by talking back to me. You don't do that. Member for Colette, kindly continue.
As I was saying, Madam Speaker, thank you very much before I was so rudely interrupted. It's not a matter of party politics. It is a matter of national importance that we place on record our gratitude to Taiwan for all it has done. But I was able to get up and say what I wanted to say here. But imagine the leader of your own party is trying to inhibit your participation on a national discussion, if you will. Very, very important. And then, Madam Speaker, we come into this House, and it is his prerogative, which is why I started my remarks this afternoon by saying we can't really cry foul. It is his prerogative to decide where we are going to sit on this side of the aisle. I would have had a problem if there was some kind of decision made to say you can't sit with the UDP, but as long as these 5 chairs are joined together, doesn't matter, Madam Speaker, it doesn't matter where we sit, because he does not determine whether I have resigned from this honorable House, nor does he determine whether my colleague from Albert has resigned from this honorable House. So for a matter of making sure that there is no doubt, absolutely no doubt, and I think You did very well, Madam Speaker. But I'm careful, I'm guarded with my praise for you because I know, Madam Speaker, that you are absolutely impartial on this matter. And I don't want them to accuse you of being biased to the member from Albert and I. But the decision made was correct. We never gave any indication. And if there is any doubt in the mind of the Belizean people, if there is any doubt in the mind of the supporters of the United Democratic Party, be it clear now that my friend and colleague, the member from Albert, who I will not call her name, the member from Albert, and yours truly, the member of Collet, have not resigned, and we expect all courtesies extended to us as members of the United Democratic Party, members of His Majesty's loyal opposition in this honorable house, and that he not be allowed to disassociate these all members, except within his right to do so. He can determine who will sit on the committees. He can determine whether I will be number 4, number 5. This has happened before. Nonsense. But he cannot and should not be allowed to say every chance he gets that you are not UDP, we are not UDP, sir, because you don't get to determine that. So we expect, Madam Speaker, that he will cease and desist from that. And again, we make the pronouncement loud and clear that we are members. Sorry to disappoint you, my friends on the government side. We are not crossing the floor, and we are not going to pledge allegiance. I don't think ever. Tracy can say it if she wants. But we say, because I hear all of them talk about crossing the floor and welcome. No. We are UDP, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to die a UDP. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Albert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before I get into my very short presentation, I wanted to acknowledge the physical presence of the ambassador for the Republic of China, Taiwan, and her political attaché, who joined us this morning for the passing of the motion. The respect, of course, that they're shown to this National Assembly is something that I sincerely appreciate. Madam Speaker, I'd like to borrow, and my matter of national importance is a need for patriotism at a time like this, a time when we celebrate the 43rd anniversary of Belize's independence, and also the 226th anniversary of the Battle of St. George's Key. I would like to borrow, if you allow me, from the words of E. Edward P. York in his song, Homeland by the Sea. And I quote, "God's goodness gave this land to me to honor and to love. This noble spot makes me rejoice, so rich and rare it be. This fruitful land, this blessed choice, my homeland by the sea. Home of my fathers, my forefathers, and the baymen I will add, and the brave, land of my earliest days. To thee I yield my maiden love, entire and pure and true, devoted as the stars above. I serve and honor you." Madam Speaker, this is a time where we must show the highest degree of diplomacy, the highest degree of patriotism, the highest degree of statesmanship. I'm appalled, Madam Speaker, that there are many districts and towns that paid no homage or no respect to the Baymen, to our forefathers, and to Belizeans across this country on the celebration of the Battle of St. George's Key and the anniversary of St. George's Key Day. Madam Speaker, most glaring was what occurred here in Belmopan and the pronouncements of the mayor. It was a national disgrace, in my opinion. Diplomacy and patriotism has to extend beyond our personal differences, or beyond our political ideologies. Patriotism and diplomacy and statesmanship, Madam Speaker, has to be cemented not only for those who came before, but we need to teach our children and our children's children the importance of our history, the importance of our legacy, the importance of the resilience of the Belizean people. Patriotism, Madam Speaker, diplomacy, and statesmanship goes well beyond a parade, a citizens' parade. It goes well beyond what speeches will be provided on the Day of Independence here in Belmopan. Patriotism is signaled by the way we treat our elderly, how we empower our women and girls, how we support the development of our young people, and how we provide for those who are most marginalized in our communities. Madam Speaker, at the beginning of this political term, the government promised that there will be access to housing for the poor. The Ministry of Infrastructure and Housing went further than that, Madam Speaker. They reached out to me as the area representative of Albert, and they said, find 5 deserving families who could use a starter home. And we did that. We did just that. And we provided the names, we provided all the relevant documentation and the plight of those 5 families. I know 3 of those families supported me in my election, but 2 did not. But it was not that they were prepared to support one political party or the other, why I made recommendations for them, Madam Speaker. It is because they were in great need, in dire need, and we continue to wait for the needs of those families to be addressed. Madam Speaker, I can say the same thing about the healthcare system. So many. You just look at the social media platforms, how many people are fundraising to get access to basic healthcare, Madam Speaker.
Member for Albert, just for clarity, I've noticed the public importance you stated was patriotism and the lack of, I'm paraphrasing here, but the lack of Belizean citizenry across the country embracing the national holiday. I just want to make sure, member, I've stated before in previous meetings, it's a matter of public importance, but I'm hearing now housing, which would be a separate minister. I'm hearing health, which would be a separate minister, but only one minister can respond should a minister choose to respond. So can we please bring it back to the public importance that you cited?
Madam Speaker, I am talking about the public importance of patriotism at a time like this. And patriotism, may I repeat, goes beyond a citizens' parade and goes beyond speeches at official events. Patriotism is signaled, Madam Speaker, by how we treat our citizens. I take note of your concern. I wanted also to say, Madam Speaker, that patriotism is evident or not evident when our babies can't have access to their birth records, or those who have died. No, this is real, and the Minister for Health knows. He and I have spoken about this on many occasions, and his CEO and I have spoken about this on many occasions. Access to death records, Madam Speaker. We are, I will wrap it up, Madam Speaker. We have a duty, a sacred duty, a sacred responsibility to build a sense of self-discipline, self-determination in all people in this country. The patriotism and diplomacy and statesmanship has us, both the member for Collett and I, standing firm on the values and principles that we believe in, defending our democracy, defending Belize's democracy. And so, Madam Speaker, I would now like to issue an open invitation to members of the government, those who sit in this National Assembly and those who are responsible for municipal governance. Please join us, all Belizeans, in celebrating the 10th of September in 2025 and beyond. This separation is not the example that we need to set for our children and for our children's children. I take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to wish seven, Mr. Mira, member for Belmopan, is a show of patriotism where your mayor disrespected and disregarded the history of this country. Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity to wish all Belizeans, and especially the people of Albert, whose vote of confidence and trust has sent me to this honorable house, a happy September celebrations and happy Independence Day celebrations as we celebrate Belize at 43. Belize that is proud and free. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, Culture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you've been very generous with the member for Albert, because you're absolutely right. It's completely unfair of the member to talk about so many different issues. Obviously, my colleagues, not just to respond out of respect to you, but to respond on the public record for the Belizean people, my colleagues want to respond to what you have said. You talked about the Ministry of Housing, made all sorts of unfounded accusations. The Minister of Housing is here. He wants to respond to that. But you said on the record that you're talking about patriotism, so the Prime Minister asked me to respond as the Minister of Culture. The Minister for Health is here. You talked about things, problems, and made all sorts of accusations. The Minister can't respond to them. Respect. You talk about respect. You must have respect and show respect as well. That's the point I'm making. So, Madam Speaker, I will excuse the member about talking all sorts of things about patriotism and nationalism, because I know she's really been in a battle with her leader. Well, he said, I know, her former leader, for the past few weeks. So I imagine she hasn't had an opportunity to participate in all of the wonderful events that have been taking place all across this country over the past few weeks. The leader of the opposition can tell you, he mentioned it last night. He was at the tribute to Belizean patriots, a wonderful event, absolutely wonderful event last night, celebrating patriotism, celebrating nationalism, celebrating service to this country. So, Madam Speaker, you know, we will take no lectures from the member for Albert about patriotism. Absolutely none. We, as a government, are absolutely committed, as we have said over and over, to uniting the people of this nation around our celebrations. And that's what we've been doing this year, as we've done for the past 4 years. You know, we had apart from the beautiful tribute to Belizean patriots last night on the shoulder of the Haulover Bridge. Beautiful setting, wonderful night. We also, just a few days ago, last week, we had the Creative and Cultural Awards for Excellence. Again, acknowledging, celebrating, recognizing, paying tribute and respect to Belizean creative Belizeans who have given their skill and talent to this nation. So we celebrated 7 wonderful Belizeans. Creative and Cultural Awards Excellence. We had the Living Legends concert. You know, they fight so much, you can't even enjoy these things. We celebrated the great Chico Ramos. Great Chico Ramos. And he was also a recipient of the Patriot Awards last night. So, you know, so much wonderful things happening in our country. So much patriotism, a sense of excitement about what is happening in our beautiful country. The carnival, wonderful carnival we had in Belize City last week. Again, you know, overwhelmingly positive response about the new route. You know, sometimes change is difficult, and but I'm very, very happy that the Carnival Association embraced that, took it, ran with it, and got the support of their membership. So, you know, a lot is happening, and I certainly, you know, want to join with the Honourable Member for Albert in saying that, of course, we have to always continue to respect the legacy of 1798, just as we celebrate the great independence, achievement of independence, the 43rd anniversary of independence we're celebrating this year. I was there on the 10th. The Deputy Prime Minister was there along with me. We had a great, the leader of the opposition was there. We had a great celebration for the 10th, beautiful 10th. The mayor spoke. I spoke, yes. The deputy said he would have gone to much. So we had a wonderful celebration of the 10th. You were there, Member for Albert. You were there. So you know that we had a wonderful celebration of the 10th. So there's no effort at all to in any way minimize the importance and the historical importance of the 10th. We're getting prepared, of course, to celebrate the 43rd anniversary of independence in a few days. We look forward to that. September 18th, we're having the unveiling through the efforts of the Minister of Tourism, the BTB, through their efforts along with the Price family. We're unveiling a statue of George Price in Battlefield Park. Great celebration of patriotism. On the 19th, National Service Day, as usual, we're going to pay tribute to our great father of the nation, George Price, the wreath laying ceremony. But we'll also be having an important ceremony where we will be signing an MOU between Nitch and the Price family regarding the Price House on Pickstock Street, that historical residence. Sorry?
1114.
Yes, 1114 Pickstock Street. So, again, wonderful, wonderful, all Member of Albert, all in the spirit of patriotism and nationalism. We agree with you. Final point, Madam Speaker. You know, the member talked about patriotism. If they want to define, if she wants to define, as she did so broadly, the definition of patriotism, and that's how she sought to bring in these issues about housing and health. Man, listen, we as a government, the Deputy Prime Minister talked about it just a few minutes ago, are making unprecedented investments in the health of our people, in our infrastructure development, in housing. So we make no apologies for that at all. So if that's how you're going to define patriotism, then we have patriotism in abundance because we are investing in those areas. Man, no make we talk about the sordid record of the UDP when it comes to housing. We don't want to discuss that anymore. We know, millions of dollars every year in the budget. Nothing done, just to pay off ghost people, ghost workers, we show up and collect money. Year after year after year, no shame. Not building anything of quality for the people of this country. Under this Ministry of Housing, under this Minister of Housing, under this government and Prime Minister, we are building quality housing for the people of this country. Quality housing. So yes, it takes a little bit longer, but we're doing it the right way. And in terms of healthcare, again, unprecedented investments. We just talked, we talk about Bolido again. The Bolido money is going into NHI, expanding across this country. NHI services. By the end of this term, we'll get to everywhere, right, Prime Minister? Kayo will be in, right, January we start Kayo. So every corner of this country will be covered by NHI because of the investments of this government. Right? Not a rip-off, the criminal behavior under the last government in terms of the Bolido. Criminal behavior. People should be in jail because of that transaction that took place, that deal that took place. Yeah. Not even, correct, not even business tax them they pay. Not even business tax they were paying. So, Madam Speaker, on a positive note, I join with the member for Albert in wishing all Belizeans happy Independence Day coming up on the 21st. You know, we all love Belize, and we're proud of Belize, and I'm very, very proud. Everywhere I go, as chairman of the National Celebrations Commission, every event that I attend, everywhere I go in this country over the past few weeks, we see that spirit of resilience, that love for Belize being exhibited in our people. Of every age, we see from the young one there to the oldest ones, waving their flags, celebrating Belize, loving Belize, believing in the future of Belize. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Members, before I put the question to the House, stood before.
Just to say, Madam Speaker, as I once again move that the House be adjourned, Madam Speaker, I just can't help but feel a sense of sadness And I know, yes, it's funny, what's going on between the opposition. But, I was thinking and reflecting when the honorable member from Albert was talking about patriotism. I was thinking, what would Sir Manuel Esquivel and Philip Gorson, the hero of Belize, would be thinking if they were alive to see what's happening in their party. It's important that you guys get your act together. We need an opposition. It's not about you. Now, you brought up the issue of patriotism. It's important that you guys get your act together. It's funny, yes, we could laugh, but it's a part of the democracy in this country. We need a strong democracy. And so it saddens me. It saddens me to see what's going on when the leader of the opposition is going to put a ghost ahead of you two. A person that has not been in this house for the past 3 years, have not attended a house meeting in 3 years. And this man, because he wants to spite you, he puts them sitting down ahead of you. Something is wrong. You guys need to get your act together. And yes, it's funny, and yes, we'd be happy for us to continue to fight because it make it easier for us to win the election. But patriotism is love for country, not only winning an election to win. It's important for you to get your act together. Madam Speaker, I take yes, October 20th, I hope you can do that. And we can see some sense
Members,
in the opposition.
let's not digress, please.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I'm sorry I got carried away. But I want to end, Madam Speaker. No, you're not allowed to speak. We're closing off. Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity, like the honorable member from Albert and the honorable member from Fitong and everybody here, to wish all Belizeans a happy independence. It is a time when you see, and yes, my honorable member from Fitong, you see it all across the country where the little children are out there with their flags. Today we had a parade in Orange Walktong. I wish I could have been there with the kids. But you see it all across this country that Belizeans are proud, resilient, and they love this country. Madam Speaker, I now adjourn.
Members, please indulge me before I put the question for the adjournment. I need to, for the matter of record, remind members. So before I took up this chair, matters under Standing Order 13, which is for the public importance, was never specifically identified. I have introduced that, and I'm going to remind members, when you stand, any member who stand on the adjournment, you must specify your specific matter of public importance. I tried to intervene twice. I respect members. I respect the right for freedom of expression. But there's a reason why that standing order is as such. It cannot be that we go all over the place, but we try and put it under the couch of something. It makes it very difficult. Why? Because, as you know, the standing orders require a minister, one minister, to respond. It cannot be on multiple issues that are for multiple ministers of government. Having said that, please do not be surprised then for future meetings if I have to revisit that ruling to ensure that we do justice by that standing order. The other point is I want to just remind all members, whether you do it by verbally, WhatsApp, email, to kindly inform acting clerk and myself of any observations from this first meeting for purposes of functionality and improvement. We would really appreciate it so that the next sitting of the House, we can improve on those areas. And with that, I wish all a happy September 21st Independence celebration. And all the House, the question is now that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.